In this video, I am going to talk about how I spend my money. In an earlier video, I spoke about where I save my money. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I spend my money. Now, these are questions which some of you reached out to me on LinkedIn, and thank you for that. And in this video, I'm going to answer that question. But before we start, do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon. Now, I'm going to talk about 6 broad heads where I spend my money. Now, the first one is travel. Now, I'm a big travel fan. Before COVID, I used to take 1 to 2 vacations every year, some inside the country, some outside the country. And how I used to typically manage my funds is about 30 to 40% of my annual bonus I used to earmark for my travel. And every month, I used to keep a portion aside, 5,000, 10,000. Every month, I used to keep it aside in a separate place, and this with the 30-40% of the bonus used to account for my travel fees. What used to happen is if you do this regularly, every month you pull a little amount out, you don't feel the pinch that it's earning, it's hurting your principal, or it's eating into your savings. So that's bucket number 1 where I spend a lot of money, which is travel. The second bucket where I used to spend a lot of money is the various OTT subscriptions. I used to have a lot of subscriptions, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney, and a variety of platforms. I think I used to spend nearly 7,000 to 9,000 rupees every month because I used to go for the family plans for all of them. What I've now done is I have bought a high-speed broadband connection, 1,200 rupees. And all these subscription platforms are now included in that. So I don't pay for any subscription platform outside this broadband connection I have. I've also taken the mobile one now. I don't like the TV one. We don't use it anymore. And I've also gone for the SD one in certain cases. So this has typically helped me save about 7,000 to 8,000 rupees clearly every month. The third big place where I spend money is entertainment. As some of you, if you follow me on social media or LinkedIn or Instagram, you'll see I love to eat. I love to visit places outside. I love to go out with friends and family. I typically go out once or twice a week. Now, in terms of preferences, I am not a big fan of the very fancy places. What I really like are the street food points, the traditional restaurants, places which are fairly affordable. So that's where I go. Where 2 people go, it's less than 1,000 rupees an outing. That's where I typically go. Not that I'm not a fan of the fancy places. I do go to the fancy places where sometimes the bill is in excess of 5,000, but that's what I typically do is once a month or once in 2 months when there is a special occasion. But if there is no special occasion, I like street food. I like some of the more traditional places and some of the places which are lighter on the wallet. So that is obviously my main source of entertainment. The fourth place is in terms of managing my fixed expense. And by that, I mean rent is a big element of your fixed expense. And I've had a thought process of this over a period of time. The question you should ask yourself is, which city do you want to settle down in? Now, Mumbai is a fantastic city, but Mumbai is very, very expensive. So ask yourself, are you okay paying that 15,000 or 20,000 rupees every month just for staying in Mumbai? If your job demands it, say you're in the financial services sector, you have to do it. But if your job doesn't demand it and you're okay moving out, consider moving to another metro. Or even if you are in Mumbai, look at if you can move to a different suburb. If you have family in Mumbai, can you stay with them for some time? There are very nice PG facilities, which are like mini hotels these days that have come up. Consider some of that also. So when it comes to rent, look at the city that you live in, look at the suburb that you live in, and what alternate arrangement can you make. So I used to love Mumbai. I spent there about 3 to 4 years of my life there, and now I've settled in Bangalore. Bangalore is also my hometown, so it works fairly well for me there. The fifth place where I spend money is a lot of membership fees, or I used to spend a lot of money is my membership fees. Now I subscribe to a lot of magazines, business magazines, newspapers, and I don't think it's a good idea to give them up. I don't read all of them sometimes, but I think it's a good idea to keep having them so that you keep reading them periodically. I'm not a fan of giving up the physical newspaper and reading it only online. I think when you have only the digital subscription, you don't end up reading the whole newspaper. When you have the physical newspaper, you end up reading it. So I'm not a fan of giving up the physical subscription of the newspapers or the magazines. Second place where I used to spend money is the gym fees. Now, what happens with the gym fees is all of us think that if we sign up for it, if we pay for the quarter or pay for the year, we'll go for it. It really doesn't happen that way. So what I typically now do is I'm a big fan of nature. So I go running outside. I don't have any gym membership. I think I save nearly 50,000 rupees a year because of that. I would strongly encourage you also take a look at your gym membership fees. Are you really getting value or buck for what you're spending in that? The third place where I used to spend money is credit cards. I used to have multiple credit cards. I had all these companies who would approach me and say, here is a credit card, it gives you this benefit, take this. And I used to take these 5 or 6 credit cards. Each of them had different benefits, different membership fees. And it used to be a mess to track them. Then I used to end up paying late payments, membership fees. So it became a complete mess. So now I just have 1 or 2. I would recommend 1 if you can, which is Visa or MasterCard. If you cannot have a Visa or MasterCard, you should have a second one as a backup. But do not have more than 2 credit cards. It becomes very, very difficult to manage. The sixth point is it's not that I'm very disciplined with my with my saving or my spending. I do have some bad habits. So where do I actually splurge? So I'm a big fan of buying gadgets. Sometimes when I even don't need them, I buy gadgets. For instance, the phone I'm currently shooting on is the latest iPhone. I technically didn't need it, but I went ahead and I bought it. I've worked for more than 10 years. I can afford to do it. So that's one place I typically splurge. The other place where I splurge is because of my profession. I have to have a lot of clothes, suits, high-end shirts, high-end trousers. So I keep a few thousand rupees aside every month from my salary into a separate place, and this accumulates, and that's what I use to spend on my apparel when I get up. The reason I keep it separate is you feel the pinch a little lesser because it's going from a separate account rather than you feeling the whole amount going from your salary at one point. So these are the 6 places where I typically spend money on, and I also spoke about how I've optimized these over a period of time. The golden rule of saving, what I have typically followed is no matter which stage of life you are in, you should always save at least 20% of your salary, 20% of your take-home salary. And ideally how that works is beginning of the month when that salary comes in, that 20% should automatically get deducted. So whether it's a PPF, whether it's a PF or it's an SIP of a mutual fund, it should just go away from your salary. So in a way, it's a forced saving. Now, sometimes it can be difficult if you're starting off, but that's the kind of number you should aim for. And as you keep earning more and more, the 20 should move to 30, 30 should move to 35, and so on. So this is the 6 broad brackets where I spend my money on. Where do you spend your money on? Why don't you drop your comments in the comments box, and I'll try and reply to as many as I can. So as we come to the end of this video, do subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon. Till next time, take care.